Do you think sales is a bad word? When you hear the word sales, I wonder what images come to mind. Whatever your relationship is with selling, I'm glad you're here. Let's have a conversation about how to sell like a good human. Hi, welcome to Conversations with Good Humans. I'm your host, Catherine Brown, and I'm author of the book called How Good Humans Sell. Today on Conversations with Good Humans, I'm talking with Dana Williams, Clifton Strengths coach and the developer of the Strengths Journal. Dana is equipped to help people understand themselves better so they can be more satisfied at work and be more effective in work. She also has an extensive corporate marketing and human resources background, which she now applies to her work in coaching other people to be their best selves through their work. Dana's worked with me and my team to understand our strengths so we can work together better. And she and I also share a love for people being more effective, even in sales, by being their true selves. This recording was part of a Clubhouse discussion recorded in January of 2022, where Dana was interviewed and asked specifically about what she would like to focus on in the new year. Even though it's not the new year anymore, I chose our edited version for the podcast because it's always a good time for us to consider how our strengths can carry us regardless of the time of year. I think you'll enjoy hearing how she applies the Clifton Strengths personally and professionally. Can't wait to hear what you think. Dana is a gem. She is an absolute treasure in my life as a strengths coach, which she'll explain to you in a little while what that is. But it is possible for a person to know their top strengths and actually make professional and personal decisions to take action to live in those strengths. And Dana has been a resource to me as a fellow good human who sells to practice doing that. And so she is the guest in our room today. So Dana, welcome. We're so glad you're here. Would you introduce yourself and would you tell us what do you think it means to sell like a good human?
Thank you, Catherine. And thank you for the kind words. Thank you, Yoram, Keith, and Russ for being the mods up here today. Catherine is a great example. We've never met in person, but we met through Clubhouse and through StoryBrand. So it's a great example of reaching out virtually and connecting. And we've just had this amazing connection through the year. And I've just been so honored to be here this morning. I started my business last year. I came out of 25 years at Southwest Airlines. I worked in HR, I worked in operations, and I worked most of my career in marketing. And I got the opportunity to use Clifton Strengths 10 years ago. And Clifton Strengths is a profile that you can take. It was created by Dr. Clifton in the 50s when he said, let's study what's right with people instead of what's wrong with people and trying to fix them. Because the premise is if you spend more time on what you do right, you have more energy, more productive, and you're more confident. And so when you talk about good human sell and what I do, I think that the human component is that we know from Gallup that we're each 1 in 33 million who we are, and there's nothing more human than that. And being unique and being that unique, purposeful person every day. So my mission and what I do is I help people transform their lives and their companies from the inside out. So I'm just thrilled to be here today and to get into this topic with you guys. So thank you, Catherine.
That's awesome, Dana. That's great. Thank you. Now, I know that as a longtime marketer, you had to think about this as well because we know Southwest Airlines has such a strong professional brand about selling to humans. Since you have been doing your own consulting business and running your own business, you've also had to think about how you want to show up and sell. So what would you say it means to sell like a good human?
So I think part of that is the very first thing I would always say, and that I've had to really focus on as I've kind of come out of corporate, is who am I? And what can I bring to the world? And how do I be my authentic self every day? and be my human self, so that when I'm selling, it's not like I'm selling. I care about you, Catherine, and I want you to have this tool because it's really going to help you in your business or in your life. And that to me is that human, getting deep within ourselves, connecting to ourselves before we connect to others. So that's kind of my approach. And I think that I don't even think of it as selling. I think of it as I want to help Catherine, or I want to help Russ, or I want to be able to share this tool that's helped me so much in my life with others. And then it doesn't feel like I'm selling. It feels like I'm sharing and helping people grow.
Mm. Thanks, Dana. Thanks for that. Yeah. And I think that one of the transforming things that has happened for me over my career in selling is that sometimes, like, if my intention is truly to do what's best for that person at this moment, as we're talking, if I learn things that I find out that the timing's not right, or this, for whatever reason, this just really isn't the best tool for them to use at this moment based on what they've said their goals are, like, part of being a good human who sells might even be to be giving an introduction to someone else, right? It could even be to market to them but not try to close it, or to create a referral, which is part of what we love so much about this community, is that we have like-minded, complementary people that we could send people to if we're not the right helper in that. So have you had things like that come up so far too, where you had to make a judgment call about what was really in that person's best interest?
Absolutely. And I think it comes from my years at Southwest, where we really focused on how to serve the customer, and what, they might not buy the first time or the fifth time or the 20th time, but we're going to find ways to connect with them. So if we're opening up a new city, what are we doing to open up that new city? We're finding out what things are important in that new city for those people. And what are the charities? What are the community activities? And what are the things we can connect us to with them? And so it's never really about the sale in the beginning as much as is building the relationship. And so, yes, Catherine, there's been times where I'm not the right person for a company or an entrepreneur or a founder, and I will refer them to somebody else, knowing that I'm helping them. I wouldn't be giving them a good service if I was just saying, sorry, go find somebody else. But my premise is always to bring value. And so even this morning, I want to bring value to this room. I don't want to just come in here and speak. I want to bring value. I want to help. And so how can I do that today? And if we have that mindset with our customers, then we're always going to win.
Thanks, Dana. Yeah, that's awesome. So I'm going to ask you another question, then I'm going to go to my fellow amazing moderators and give them a chance to visit with you as well. So one of the things that you and I've talked about, one of the things I want to make sure that we get to in the room before we open this up more broadly, is talking about how what we intend for this year. And so you've had a year in your business. I know that you had a really strong start, and that you actually use a journal, which I don't mind a bit for you to explain and plug, because it's a really cool thing that you've developed. As you are using your journal, as you're reflecting on your goals, as you're thinking about what you want for this year, what are some things that you could share with the room that are practices that you're committed to in 2022, that although they may not be specifically about selling and they may not be only professional, you feel like contribute to you showing up in your whole full self to add value? So these could be personal habits, these could be individual goals you set. I'd be so interested, as a high performing individual, what you are looking at doubling down on in 2022.
Thank you. And I'm going to try to do this succinctly so that we can get to questions. But thank you for bringing up the journal. So when I was at Southwest Airlines and I was working with Clifton Strengths, and we used it within the leadership department. I mean, we used it as leaders to help us engage and keep our employees engaged, and then help us to know each other quickly when we got into team settings, etc. And then it went viral. It went throughout the whole company. And what I realized is it was not a product or a way, after we learned our strengths and we worked on our strengths as a team, how to manage those daily. So I went to Gallup and asked if I could create a daily journal. And so they licensed me, and it's called the Strengths Journal. It's the only daily planner licensed by Gallup. And I created it for me, because my top 5 talents are ideation, futuristic, strategic, individualization, and maximizers. So I'm an idea girl, but I had to learn how to turn my idea down and turn up my strategic, or turn down my futuristic and turn up my individualization. And so I needed a daily planner that would help me with that. And so if I don't fill this planner out every day, things don't happen. And so basically the way I set it up is you've got to start first with identifying who you are, what you bring and what you need, and your top talents. There's 34 talents, and you can either find out all 34 or your top 5. And then I really was amazed at how many people didn't have a mission statement. So one of the things we work on is your mission, and being able to put that at the beginning of your journal, and then your core values, because those tie into your strengths and help you with decision making. And then instead of having, 20-year goals, 10-year goals, we start with 3-year goals. Where do you want to be in 3 years? Okay, well, let's back that up. If you want to be there in 3 years, what have you got to be doing in a year? Well, then what have you got to be doing in 6 months? And then what have you got to be doing in 90 days? And so every day in the journal, you write your desired outcome for the day. Why? Why do you want to have this outcome for today? And then take action. So you have 3 big things you do each day, and then you apply one of your strengths to do it. So looking back in my journal the other day, I had to plan out, the next 6 months. So I turned on my futuristic. I also had to work on promoting my new boot camp, which is called Transforming Your Life from the Inside Out. Well, I need to turn on my maximizer. So it is a way to tell you internally which knob you're turning on and which one you're turning off, so that you can direct your energy that way and have clarity every day. And then at the end of the day, you write what you're grateful for and what you learned today, or the fear you conquered today. Because we want to be learning every day, so we're growing. And even stepping in fear, when I started my business, there was a lot of fear, and there still is, on things I haven't done yet. And I have to think about, what am I going to do today that I'm scared to do, and how am I going to make myself get that done? Who am I going to bring along with? Who am I going to connect with to help me do that? So it's a daily management, but it gives me clarity, and it helps me stay focused, and it helps me stay true to my commitments. And then the last piece of the journal is every week you measure yourself. How did I do? When was I energized last week? What did I figure out happened last week? What is the one thing that I want to be focused on next week? And then you measure your well-being every week. And the reason we want to do that is, we know from Gallup, over 98 million people were studied, and they found that there's 5 areas of well-being. 7 out of 10 people right now are suffering. So for me to do this every week, I can see, oh my gosh, how's my social? How's my finances? How's my faith? How's my fitness? How's my career well-being? And you measure those every week by yourself. And then you figure out which strength I'm going to use to help me get better in that area. So it's a well-being daily practice. Does that make sense? I went really fast through that, but I'm hoping that helps.
That's great, Dana. Thanks. Yeah. Do you you want to tackle the what are you working on this year question?
Yeah. So what am I working on this year? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
I did an interview error earlier by asking you a 2-part question. So
Okay.
I gave you a chance to talk about the journal, but I
Sure.
also asked, what are you
What are you
doubling
working
down on in 2022?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
doubling down on. I've had a live coaching group for a year. And what I realized is, in that group, they want to stay together. We're just growing together. It's been amazing. But what I realized is, there's a lot of people that want to get in and do a 6-week program, get their mission, get their their values, their vision, and their goals. Right now, we're at the end of January, and probably 90% of the people that set their goals in December still haven't even fulfilled them or started fulfilling them for this month. And so this is a way to boost that. So I created a 6-week boot camp, and I'm going to do it 4 times this year. And our first boot camp is going to be February 8th. And it's called, you can go to strengthsonpurpose.com. We maybe can put that in the link, but that helps people just get with other folks, get their goals, get their, their values and their mission all together, and then work on their strengths. So they'll get a daily strengths journal for 4 months, and they'll also get their strengths code and they'll get weekly coaching. So that is something I'm really excited about because we just launched that. And so that's one of the big things that I'm working on. Last year, I did a lot of test and learn as a new entrepreneur. And so I'm just refining some of the areas where they weren't growing as much or things weren't as strong. I do work with a lot of corporations. So I'm finding that with my corporate clients, they really want a roadmap. So I've developed a 6-month roadmap for my corporate clients. And I come in and bring in a team and we do the strengths. We have the journal program. We have well-being and we have monthly coaching. And that's proven to be a good model. And so we'll continue working on that as well. And I'm just excited about getting out there and speaking more about this. Didn't get the time last year to speak as much, so I want to speak more this year in 2022.
Thanks, Dana. That's great. Yoram, would you like to introduce yourself? And I want to give you a chance to ask Dana a question, and then we'll go to Russ.
Hi, Dana. How are you? Thank you. I'm actually really excited you're planning to go out and speak more this year. I've already started following you, and I'm going to be hoping to hear a lot more from you this year because I'm already really excited, and it's only 8:19 in the morning here in New York.
Thank you.
I absolutely love this. And so my name is Yoram Stone. I'm the English guy with the Israeli name who speaks to you from the heart of New York City in Manhattan on a really cold day with probably I'd say over decades of sales experience, mainly in SaaS. And I wanted to sort of veer left, and I hope it's okay to just pinpoint something you mentioned earlier. I've been a big advocate, I think I mentioned in this room, about salespeople really, like you mentioned, getting into their client's world or future clients' world, not just about what they're selling, but also what's going on, what interests them, what the charities are, what the challenges are. And I think we all agree, when you look at some of the successful salespeople out there, they're not just a vendor. They're like the person I turn to when I need help with anything, the person who's, when I'm thinking of something, they're already there with a solution. I'm just curious. I mean, find some people struggle with this or struggle to sound genuine when they're trying to really understand what's going on with a client. So what's your advice? I mean, what did you see in Southwestern? What have you done in your business? What should every salesperson be doing when they come across a prospective client to understand their world beyond the product or service they're selling?
Well, that's such a great question. And first I go to, if I can do strength spotting with a potential client, I'll try to figure that out because they might have deliberative or they might have something that's causing them not to connect as quickly. But I think the biggest thing that I've learned in my years of building, and literally I started at Southwest when they were 10 years old. So I got to help build that brand. And what I learned is relationship. So it's not going in, I'm going to sell you some tickets. It's going in and I want to get to know you and I want to know who you are and I want to know what you need. Before we got into the world of research in marketing at Southwest, I mean, we just would respond to customer letters and call our top customers and talk to them and find out what they needed, what did they need more of. And so I think a lot of that, to answer your question, is really starting with building the right relationship and that mindset of I'm going to build some relationships instead of I'm going to make a bunch of sales. And I think that in the long term, I've seen the sales soar because we're not coming across as salesy. We're coming across as human, and we're coming across as we care about you. You are an important person. Southwest as a brand is egalitarian. I feel that myself. I don't feel like, people are at different levels. And so coming across that way, but you got to know yourself first and then how you're going to approach the client. But if you can know their strengths, that's even better. But if you don't have their strengths, I think it's just the good old build a relationship.
I love it. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it really is from the first interaction. I think you said you've got to feel it genuinely inside. That you're not just speaking to somebody, right? I've sold them, let's move on, even though your company wants you to. You've got to really think about what can I do to just make these people's lives better. Somebody put it beautifully, said all prospects care about are themselves and their futures, which is perfectly reasonable when you think about it. So you should be there trying to understand what's bothering them, what's going on in their lives, what the future is. just sometimes, somebody said if you can just find an electrician for them or plumber when something's breaking down, you can just pull that out of the hat. That will sometimes just make a big difference. And that could simply come across to, so how's your day going today? All okay? No, not really. Oh dear, what's happened? Oh, the pipe broke, my oven's not working. And rather just, sometimes they said just focusing on, I was taught that as a young salesperson, focus on that first, just as a name, and then even if nothing comes to mind, just if you ring them back half an hour later, said, I don't know if you found somebody, but somebody recommended this plumber, they've helped out my mother. Even if they've found somebody already, you're in a different world, and they're more likely to open up to you in the future because they see you are genuine. I'm going to finish with this. We all know people buy from people they trust, and if they feel you're generally looking out for them, they're more likely to trust you and open up to you about where you can help them with whatever service and product you're selling. But you've got to
Exactly.
prove to them that you're genuine.
And I think that's the thing, is bringing the human piece of it. So whether someone's flying an airline or you're selling electronic equipment or whatever, that you're thinking about their needs and what they need first, and you're managing that. And even if I can think of some of our salespeople that brought us things in times of, we had a really bad incident one time, and it was kind of took us all down. And this one client, or one of our salespeople, came in and brought us all food for the morning. I mean, just thinking about what do they need right now? They're having a challenge, and it's just nurturing. And I don't think people will buy from you until they know you and they trust you, as you said. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah, it's great. I'm really, really pleased, actually. I think you're the first person to mention it today, so I'm really pleased. I think people need to mention it more and more and more. In the SaaS world, that is sometimes, we're so obsessed with how awesome and different our products are and forget to really just focus on the people we're selling to as individuals.
And I want to make one comment too, because what happens is those people in those corporations, if you're calling corporate clients, they're going to move around, and they're going to move right now. We know 4.5 million people have left their work in 1 month, and they're moving around. You all are experiencing that. Well, they're moving to other companies. They're going to bring you with them. And I've experienced that recently. So I think you want to stay with them on their journey wherever they go.
That's great, Dana. Thanks for sharing that. One of the things that I'd be interested in hearing you talk about is, we have leaders know that to perform well at work, we've got to bring our whole selves, and we also have to make sure that we're in great shape. What are we good both physically, emotionally, and mentally? And so what is something that you're looking at doing differently in this year, in 2022, in the non-professional domain to help keep growing and bringing your best self each day as you work with clients?
That is a great question. Well, first of all, I am a person of faith. So I get up early in the morning, and I have my quiet time. And I think I have to just have that time to get connected to myself. And I don't know if y'all read Brene Brown's new book, Atlas of the Heart, but she talks a lot about, in this crazy world we're in, how important it is right now for us to be connected to ourselves. So that is a big focus for me, to be connected to myself in 2022. So if something comes to me, I need to filter it and be curious about it, think about what's going on with my strengths, what's causing me to feel that way. And then, make sure I put that thought in a good place, either throw it away or keep it and use it for good. And I think that's part of my curiosity. So as I think about 2022, it's how do I be more curious about what I'm thinking and how I'm developing myself? And how do I connect each day to God, to myself, and to others, and make sure that I'm grounded in what is true for me? And then I think also just the commitment that I'm going to make to those that I get to come in contact with, the opportunity with you guys today. How can I bring you value each day? And what are the things I can do so that I can feed my clients every day? What are the things I need to do for me so that I can feed them? It's kind of like going in and watering. I think Herb at Southwest called it a garden. When you're a leader or an entrepreneur, you're constantly nurturing and watering the garden, and you're moving plants around. And it's like, what can I do to feed myself first and take care of me so I'm in a good, healthy state? And then how can I go out and feed my clients and make sure they're all good? And I think a lot of that is making sure I've got a coach. I think everybody needs a coach. I think that we need a coach for development. And so I kind of call those the 5 C's. It's the curiosity, the clarity, which is the daily journaling, connection to God and myself, and then to others, and the commitment, and then the coaching for development. So making sure that I have a coach. I'm so busy coaching others. I need to put that oxygen mask on myself first so I can serve others. And I think that's the biggest thing as an entrepreneur that we all need is how do we take care? So I'm glad you asked that question, Russ, because right now, as I said, 7 out of 10 people are not, their well-being is low. They're not surviving. And so what are the things I have to work on that daily? I have to work on what are the things I can do daily that will help me be strong, be well nourished, be in a good mindset. And so I think that's a huge focus right now. So thank you for asking that question.
I love the fact that you use the analogy coming from Southwest, the model of putting the mask on yourself first.
Yeah, I use that a lot. And it's funny because my very first job at Southwest was a flight attendant for like a year. And I keep saying, I need to get that mask. There's so much meaning behind it. It's a great metaphor for taking care of ourselves. So thank you.
Hey, thanks, Tony. Yeah, I like big fan of Herb Cowherd's material. It sounds like you were there long enough to maybe know Herb. I always remember the line that he had around, is this taking me more towards our goal or further away from our goal? And I love that. You talked about clarity just now. I love that clarity of vision and purpose and all those things.
Thanks, Keith. Dana, when you become part of your client's team, but you do not have a specific role, how do you become a complement to what they are doing rather than a pain?
It's all about people. So you can't look at each person as the same. So what you might do in company A is going to be different what you're doing in company B, depending on the leadership, depending on the systems, depending on the project management, all, how you've set everything up. But I think the one thing that could be consistent is how unique you are and who you are and what you bring. And so I'm curious if you have a list of questions that you ask them once you get on the team of how you can serve them and where, what are the needs they have and where are they stuck? And what are the things that you can bring to them that they haven't had from a guide before? I would call yourself a guide instead of a salesperson. You might have some strong strengths like command and self-assurance and things where you just come in and get it and see it. And then you've got a leader that doesn't have any of those strengths. And they might see that as, oh my gosh, what is this guy doing? But you're just bringing in your strengths. So that's why it's good to start with those discovery questions first as you're coming into a team like that and see what they need. And that's why I always love strengths, because you get a quick x-ray of the team and where their strengths are as a team and what they need. And then you come in and bring what they need.
Something I really like that you also are leaning into there, Dana, is that with this metaphor of being a guide, one of the things that comes to my mind, you can also tell them kind of predictively that this, in a best case scenario, this is the sort of thing that happens. And I'll give you an example. I will be hired to do corporate sales training, and there'll be a series of lessons and a package that goes with that. And what I've learned is that when the clients that I work with bring their marketers to the meetings, which I love when they do, because then we get consistency of how we describe what we sell. So I really love for them to invite marketers into these sales training classes. Every time that happens, though, my work expands. And so I shouldn't say though, I say, and every time that happens, my work expands because there's more work to be done, because they start having these collaborative conversations about what is marketing doing and what is sales doing. So I have begun saying, when it looks like they want to include marketing, which is a wonderful thing, I have begun saying early, okay, when I do this, here is what often happens, and it's so great, and I want to get you to think about what this might look like. And I almost always sell a consulting component that goes with that class, because I want to have time to be available, and I do not want to give that time for free. So I'm giving that example to say, whenever you can say, so here's often what happens, and you're kind of laying out the path, you're really being an advisor there, because you're saying, look, I've been down this road before, and here's some things we might want to be thinking about. And that could go along nicely with Dana's questions, I think. So here is another question. How did you find the clarity to create the Strengths Journal as the product you wanted to represent your personal brand?
That's such a great question. It's funny, when I started out, my boss at Southwest, because he knew I was working on the journal and he knew it was a personal goal of mine to get that journal out. I just didn't know when I'd launch it and what that would look like. And so we launched last year with just focus on the journal. And it was so funny. I realized that the journal is not really the product. The product, it's just a byproduct of what I've developed. The product is helping people live in their strengths every day and transform their life from the inside out. And so I really just kind of, that message has evolved. And it wasn't until I got a coach and really worked a little bit harder on that. I told her, I said, if I had worked on this last year when I was starting my business, it probably we wouldn't have known. But after a year of using some verbiage and working on with my marketing experience, I thought, oh, I got this down. But it's harder to market yourself than it is to help somebody else. But what I realized is my sweet spot has always been building brand from the inside out. One of my favorite things I did at Southwest Airlines was when we were getting ready to launch Hawaii or a new city, is I would develop the strategic plan for, okay, how are we going to launch this inside the company first? And we brought in this amazing guy from Hawaii that manages culture there in Hawaii. And he helped us as we were developing the brand and developing what we could say and what we couldn't say. I passed everything by him. And so I found that over my career, when I look back, everything I was doing was from the inside out. And so that is my mission. And I just didn't have it clarity and have the words right. And just till a while ago. And it takes some time, but I think it's figuring out what you do that nobody else does. Put the blinders on. Don't compare yourself to other people, and think about what you can bring to the world that only you can bring because of your experience. And I also had some challenges in my marriage and in my life. Oh gosh, about 10 years ago, before I found strengths. And I was in some really dark places. So I had to work on myself. And again, it was starting from the inside out. So that's how I got there. But everybody's journey is going to be different. And I think it's knowing, just really focusing on you and focusing on your uniqueness and staying in that spot every day, and not in putting those blinders on what everybody else is doing.
Thank you for sharing that information. I appreciate you.
You bet. I mean, that's my life. I said, why not share that? I mean, it is who I am. And I couldn't get to where I am today if I hadn't gone through those hard, rough times. And I've been through several, because I've been married for a long time, but and just done life with people. And it's just my sweet spot. And it's fun to kind of figure that out.
Dana, that was wonderful. Thank you very much. I have a quick kind of question, which I hope Catherine won't mind if I ask Dana, and I feel like I've been drinking from the fire hose. But I would love to think about this past sort of crazy year that we've probably all had a piece of, and ask you to relate maybe a sales lesson that you've had to learn or create some kind of change in your business to respond to the changing world that we live in.
That's such a great question. And I have number one ideation. So I pivot pretty quick. But I also learned to now stop and look at as a strategy. So, and I have futuristic. So I'm always looking ahead. Where are we going? What does that look like? What could be the working culture in 6 months? And we went through all that start and stop. And it wasn't until I listened to Amy Cuddy talk about the pandemic flux syndrome and what we've been experiencing, just up and down, up and down. So the first thing I really got centered on that I didn't even plan to do was well-being, and making sure that all of my clients, when the first thing I'd say to them when we got in a room or on virtual, or we were doing a facilitation, if I'm facilitating, the very first thing I started doing was saying, how are you? How are you feeling today? What is on your mind today? And then starting the conversation from there. And I did that yesterday with my coaching group. And what I thought we were going to talk about was so different for what we ended up talking about. I think it's taking that time to check in on people's well-being, because people around us right now are really having some challenges. And I think if you know that your customer might be having, or your client or your coworker might be having some challenges, I'd start there. And that wasn't a part of my plan at all. So that pivoted. The other thing I started doing was every 2 weeks, with two of my mods from Clubhouse, we do a LinkedIn Live, and we're really focusing on leaders and coaching as development. And that really, we're talking about everything that's happening right now with people leaving. So leaders are having a lot of hard times. And I'm sure you guys have clients that are this is happening to, where they've invested in their people and all of a sudden their people are leaving. And they're leaving for different reasons. But the main reason people are leaving is they want meaningful work. Well, how do we help people have meaningful work? Well, if I'm a leader, I'm going to make sure I know their strengths. I'm going to make sure I'm asking them 3 questions every day. Do you have clarity about your job? Do you feel like you have the tools of what you need to do your job well? And do you feel like you get to do what you do well every day? Those were not in my bandwidth as I was thinking through 2021. And so I've changed that too, to make sure that every leader I come in contact with, we make sure they understand those engagement questions and they're asking those questions of their people so that they can keep them engaged. I could probably go on, but that's a quick list of things I've been doing since the pandemic. Does that help?
That helps a lot. And now that you've advertised your LinkedIn room, I'm going to make sure that I pop along to one of those. That's a great passion of mine as well, is bringing on the next generation of leaders through LinkedIn as well. So
LinkedIn is awesome. Dana, I love that Clifton Strengths focuses on what people do well. And I'm thinking about the flip side of the coin. What is the philosophy of dealing with weakness? Also, have you ever had a leader who said no to everything?
Thank you for bringing those 2 questions up. Yes, we get asked all the time, well, what about weaknesses? Well, there's 34 talents that you have when you take your assessment. You want to stay focused in at least the top 10 or the top 5. The top 5 you never leave home without. 6 through 10 are your back engine room of things you need as you're navigating your day and things you use. Those bottom 34, you need to be aware of them. You need to manage them, but you don't need to spend time there because you can't develop that. We just can't develop those. And this is after decades of research from Gallup. And so we all grew up with somebody said, well, you're really good at this, but you need to work on this. And what the strengths philosophy is, you're really good at this. Let's have you do more of this. And these things that aren't your wheelhouse, let's get somebody else to come alongside you and do those. And that's a good leader. And that's a leader that understands their people and understands where their energy comes from, because it's really about managing your energy every day, not managing your time. So you want to make sure that if you're in your strengths every day, you're managing your energy, because you're energized when you're using your strengths. When you're using your weaknesses, you're drained. So on that second point of your question, yes, I just helped one of my leaders at one of the companies I work with who was not doing well. And we talked for a good 6 months. And I finally just said to her, and I say this as, I could lose her as a client, but I cared more about her and her well-being than I did about keeping the money from that particular organization. And I just said, you know what? I think it's time for you to look somewhere else. And I'm here to listen and help and guide. But I just don't think I don't think this is good for your soul. And I think it's time to really, and I think she just needed that permission slip. And I think she was in a really toxic environment. And so I'm going to say that, to people when I see, and I did that at Southwest too. I say, maybe Southwest isn't your right place to be. Why don't you think about what you can be doing that'll give you more energy? And lots of times I'll tell people to find something on the side that gives them that energy while they're looking for that other thing. Rick, how can we help you?
Hey, good morning. Good to be with everybody here this morning. I think I may have heard you speak once before in a room. I did take a quick look at your bio, and I guess my quick question to you is, I'm just coming in, so I apologize. I may be stepping on ground that's already trampled down. How often do you see that people really know and really understand themselves? It's been a long time that we've had that admonition, to be true to yourself first. But how many people have you found in your work that really get who they are and know what they are and know how to leverage those strengths?
Rick, that's such a good question. Let me just say this. We are all a work in progress. We're never complete till the day we die, right? So I think what we want to do is every day be our best self for that day. Based on who we are. And that's why I love strengths, because it becomes a common language in the workplace and in your personal life. My husband and I use it. We use the language of, there goes my futuristic in the basement, because he says, Dana, why are you so focused on 6 months from now and we don't even know what we're doing tomorrow? For example, it would be something he would say to me. So it's learning to laugh and look at ourselves and share who we are, with our talents, but also use them for good. Because then he's like, he has a presentation today. And so I was helping him plan that out and what that would look like and the vision of how he wants to complete that sale. So it's knowing that about each other and what we each bring to the workplace. And what I saw, I think we have a fire within each of us. We just need to light it. And then we need to go help light it in everybody else. And you got these little campfires, is what I visualize across the world, of people who have found their talent. But it's a constant work in progress. I have been doing this for 10 years and I still can't get enough of, what do I need to do to improve in this area? Or how can I be better in this area? What strength am I going to use? And it gives us a tool daily to use that we can help ourselves and each other. I hope that answers your question, Rick, because it's never finished, right? We're never finished. Does that answer your question?
I think it's a good start. I'm going to have to poke around myself and get a better understanding for it. So I get the common language piece, and I think that's super helpful to have the conversations with yourself and with others, especially others who get the common language. And I think what I'm hearing is a bit of, it also helps you to not only talk to yourself, but work on yourself. Is that a good encapsulation, or do I need to be thinking about it differently?
You are
Thank
exactly
you.
right. Like today, I put everything in my journal of what I needed to do today. Well, there's things I need to get done today that I can't, they don't give me energy with my strengths. I don't have that talent. So I might pick up the phone and call Russ and say, Russ, can you help me with this? Because I know he's got a talent in that. Or Catherine, can you help me with this? And I think about other people that might have talents that will help me in those areas instead of me feeling like I have to do everything by myself. And here's the other big aha that I've learned from Gallup, is that strengths don't develop by ourselves. They develop in relation to others. So in order for me to develop my futuristic, I might brainstorm with Catherine. Or to develop my strategic, I might get on the call with Russ and say, hey, Russ, what do you think about this? And we brainstorm together. That helps me develop it further. So does that make sense?
It does. So if I heard you correctly, that you've got latent talents and this helps you unlock them and recognize them and also be able to communicate those to others. And now you've got to be able to develop that proof to say, and here's how I know that, or am I overstating that?
No, I think once you know your strengths, and Rick, you haven't done your Clifton Strengths yet, right?
If I have, I'm unaware of it and I'll have to poke around and
I would go look and see, and feel free to reach out to me and I'll help you. A lot of people maybe have done it, but it just got stuck in the drawer and they don't remember, or they put it aside. And so I would ask that you go and look for those and see, and then I'll be happy to visit with you about them. If you haven't done it, I'm same thing. But I think you'll have some ahas, because your report that you get is written just for you based on the algorithm of all your other strengths. And you'll see things in there that give you aha. They go, no wonder I enjoy doing this. No wonder I'm more productive when I do this. No wonder I'm more confident when this happens. And so it helps you. It's a great tool to use to motivate yourself and to get things done.
I will look around and I will reach out to you. Given what I do professionally, this could be extraordinarily helpful. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm so happy, Rick, that you have connected with Dana, because one of my superpowers is connecting people inside my orbit. So I'm so happy that that relationship might help you serve your clients differently. Dana, I want to give a quick example, one more quick plug for you all considering working with Dana to understand your strengths. I literally just this morning had a reminder email that came up for something that I keep putting off. And part of understanding strengths and feeling empowered to live into those and notice what's difficult for you. Feel permission to ask for help in those areas and delegate that, and understand that it's an energy suck for you when you don't do that. This language around that helps me so much. So I got this reminder email, and even though it's the third time the reminder email has come from this automated thing of something I eventually need to take care of for taxes, it hadn't occurred to me to ask for help. And I have a team. I have a team. I have people who will help me, because part of what I have to do, Rick, is I have to remember I have this backstory tape that runs in my mind that says, you have to do it all. 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 If you're really great, you can do it all. That is a very unhelpful old, VHS tape that runs in my brain. And so to overcome that and to really experience success at another level, I need language, permission, and a framework to make a different choice. So when the third time it came up, I thought, why haven't I asked someone else to take care of this for me? This is important, but not urgent. And it is certainly something that I can delegate. It was not automatic for me to think of delegating that. So I think having this language with your team is so useful, because my team knows that about me and they're happy to help. They probably would say, why didn't you ask me sooner? Because I didn't think of it. So I love the practical nature of understanding all of your strengths, especially the top 5.
I've always wondered about this. I'm a big believer in having, be totally focused on your goals, your strength, etc. I know Brian Tracy believes you should be reading about sales even when you're on vacation at the beach. Otherwise, you'll never be a sales superstar. But I also believe there's time that you just need to decompress. So my question is, should there be a point where you say, okay, I'm focused on my goals, I'm focused, but I'm going to have an hour a day or a week to just do something completely different? Or should you make that part of your goals, your drive, instead of just doing something aimless, just actually have something, like you mentioned, on the side that interests you, and that should be part of your goals, your strengths. I suspect the answer, maybe it's different for different people.
We need to know your strengths. And then for me, I have ideation. So I need to have breaks within my day, like go walk the dog and think through what I just learned. So I don't have like an intense boom, 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 boom. I actually block Mondays off for content creation and Fridays off for free day. And the 3 days in between are really my power days. And then I have time within the day to give me time to think, because that feeds me and that gives me energy. If you have any thinking talents like intellection or input or strategic or futuristic or ideation, you're going to need time to think every day. And most of the people I see with high thinking talents aren't giving themselves time to think each day. And that's what I would say, put in your schedule. But it depends on your talents. So I'd want to know your talents, and then we'd work through, okay, what does a good day look like for you? And how can you structure that day? Because time it's the only thing we can't get back, and it's gone once it's gone. So, we can always, do other things, but time is gone. So how do you manage your time for your productivity to be your best you every day? And that's what I help with. So I'm excited, Yorm, you asked that question. Happy to help. Thank you, Catherine, for this room. This has been incredible to see all these talented people up here and learn from each of you. And what a great space that you've created. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Dana. And I appreciate your coaching with me on living into my strength. I'm so glad you joined us today. If you would like me to come and speak with your organization about how to sell like a good human, please contact me through the website howgoodhumanssell.com. Thanks, and talk with you again.